In the ages when the sands of Qumran had not yet buried the secrets of the righteous, and the salt sea reflected the face of a sky that spoke to men, the word became silence among the children of light. This is the account preserved in the folds of time, the Codex of Dissipated Shadows, which narrates the meeting of the Master of Righteousness with the one who carried the sun in his hands, revealing the mystery that unites flesh to spirit through emptiness and clarity. And it happened that, at nightfall, when the hills of Judah dressed in purple, Yeshua sat among the elders of the community, men whose garments were white as the wool of dawn, and whose hearts were living parchments of the unwritten law. There, among the caves that held the breath of the earth, the Master opened his lips to speak not about what enters the mouth, but about what purifies the sacred temple that is the body of man. He told those present that the body is the tabernacle of the Most High, woven with the threads of the four elements, but that, over the generations, man allowed the ashes of the world to clog the channels through which the river of life flows. For the river to run again with the purity of crystal, it is necessary for man to become small, to become nothing, so that the all can dwell in him. Fasting, he taught, is not the mere deprivation of earthly sustenance, but the act of opening the windows of the soul so that the wind of the Spirit blows away the dust of desire and infirmity. Just as the earth rests under the moonlight to give sweeter fruits in the harvest, the body of man must plunge into the absolute rest of all matter, so that the cells, small stars of flesh, remember their divine origin. The Essenes, hearing such words, bowed their heads, for they knew that healing did not come from external ointments, but from the fire that burns without consuming at the center of being. Yeshua then stretched out his hands to the horizon and explained that fasting is the first portal. When man ceases to consume what is heavy and dense, the digestive fire, which previously worked to break down the bread of the earth, turns inward. It becomes a purifying flame that travels through the veins, bones, and tissues, consuming the dross of fear, anger, and diseases that have crystallized in the blood. It is the return to the state of Dul. The Master instructed that fasting be accompanied by communion with the angel of water and the angel of air. Drinking pure water from the source, blessed by the sun, is washing the internal altars. Breathing the mountain air with awareness is feeding the vital breath that sustains the worlds. But the deepest secret, the one that the centuries hid, was the union of fasting with the Adamantian light. Yeshua explained that man is a being of light imprisoned in a veil of clay, and that fasting removes the layers of this veil so that the external light, the radiance of the Father that emanates from the sun and the stars, can recognize the internal light that dwells in the heart. While fasting empties the vessel, the light fills it. The Master taught the technique of solar inhalation, practiced at the break of day when the gold of the sky does not yet burn, but caresses. He said that the eyes are not only for seeing the world, but are portals through which the energy of the Logos penetrates the nervous system, restoring the harmony of the fire centers that the ancients called wheels of life. By fasting, the body becomes subtle, almost transparent to spiritual perception, and in this state of purity, man must expose himself to clarity. The revealed technique consisted of a deep silence, where the mind was quieted so that the organs could sing their hymn of gratitude. During the fasting, the initiate should seek isolation, far from the discords and the clamor of the cities, for the energy gained from the light is delicate as the beating of a dove's wings and can be dispersed by the noise of the world. Yeshua spoke of the copper light of the afternoon and the gold light of the morning as celestial medicines. He instructed the sick to wrap their infirmities in thoughts of white color, while the sun bathed their skin, for the heat of the sun is the Father's embrace, and its light is the wisdom of Mother Earth. Fasting was the preparation of the soil, light was the seed, and healing was the inevitable fruit. There was no disease that could resist the frequency of pure light when the body was not occupied with the heavy task of grinding matter. The Master showed that disease is only a shadow, and that the shadow has no existence of its own, being only the absence of clarity. Therefore, to heal, one must not fight against the shadow, but simply bring the light. In these mystical dialogues, it became clear that the fasting of the Essenes was not a punishment, but a celebration of freedom. The man who does not depend on bread to live for a few days discovers that his true life comes from every word that comes out of the mouth of God. And that word is the vibration of light. Yeshua described the process of regeneration as an alchemical rebirth. The body, under fasting, enters a state of sacred autolysis, where everything that is impure, superfluous, and diseased is sacrificed on the altar of the internal fire. It is the pruning of the vine so that it gives more grapes, and while this sacrifice occurs, meditation on the light acts as the dew that descends from Hermon, softening the process and accelerating the reconstruction of tissues. The Master said that the eye must be simple so that the whole body may be luminous. To have a simple eye is to fix the vision on unity, ignoring the multiplicity of forms and the illusions of pain. He also revealed that light has 7 colors, and each color is an angel that takes care of a part of the human being. In fasting, man learns to invoke these angels according to his need. The angel of blue for peace of mind, the angel of green for the renewal of forces, the angel of violet for the transmutation of old sorrows, but above all, the white light, the synthesis of everything, which is the Christ emanation itself. The fasting of speech was also recommended, for the word spends the light that the body tries to accumulate. In silence, the light condenses. The Essenes practiced these. Yeshua walked among them and at times touched a sick person seeking healing. But before touching him, he often asked, "Can you believe that the Father fills you when the world leaves you empty?" If the man was willing to fast, to release the bonds of attachment to food and sensations, healing was instantaneous, for the Master only accelerated with his presence what fasting and light had already begun. He explained that the miracle was not a violation of natural laws, but the application of a higher law that man had forgotten. The law that energy commands matter, and light is the purest form of energy accessible to man. Fasting removes the resistance of matter, making it obedient to the command of the Spirit. The Codex details that on the 10th day of fasting, the initiate begins to see the light not only outside himself, but emanating from his own pores. It is the sign that the body of glory is being woven. At this stage, food becomes unnecessary, for the soul has learned to extract the prana directly from the ether. Yeshua called this the hidden manna, the food that the fathers ate in the desert and yet died, but whoever ate of that light would never die. The teaching was clear. Disease is born in the forgetting of light and grows in the excess of matter. Fasting cuts the roots of disease, and light heals the wounds left by it. It was not just about physical health, but a total transfiguration. The Master said that just as coal, under pressure and heat, becomes a diamond, the human body, under fasting and light, becomes an incorruptible receptacle for divine consciousness. There was also the practice of the laying on of hands during fasting. The Essenes formed healing circles where the one strongest in light passed his energy to the weakest, but both had to be fasting so that the transmission was pure, without the interference of the dense vibrations of food. Yeshua was the center of these circles, the sun around which the planets revolved. He taught that charity is a form of light, and that fasting to give your bread to the hungry was one of the most powerful keys to opening the heavens. Healing, therefore, had an ethical pillar. Purify yourself to serve, empty yourself to be filled by love, which is the 8th color of light, the color that unites all others. Throughout the parchment, the Master also spoke about gratitude as the catalyst of light. Even in fasting, when the stomach cried out, man should give thanks for the hunger for justice, and the thirst for truth. This mental attitude transformed physical discomfort into spiritual ecstasy. The pain of hunger was seen as the sound of chains breaking. And when the sunlight touched the faster's body, he should not only feel the heat, but on the nights of the full moon, the Essenes practiced the fasting of lunar light, which they called the silver light that cools the passions. While the sun brought fire and reconstruction, the moon brought water and emotional balance. Yeshua taught that the balance between the solar and the lunar in the body was essential for integral health. Fasting allowed this tuning to occur without the interference of the fats and salts of the earth. The body became a perfectly tuned musical instrument, capable of vibrating at the same note as the celestial spheres. And in such a state of harmony, disease simply could not find a place to anchor itself. The culminating revelation of the Codex is the moment when Yeshua speaks about the resurrection as the final result of mastery over fasting and light. He suggests that death is the last fasting, and that those who learn to feed on light during life will not find darkness in the grave, but rather the fullness of the eternal sun. The body of flesh is a cocoon. Fasting accelerates the maturation of the butterfly. The healing technique was, therefore, a preparation for eternity. Do not fear those who kill the body, he said, but fear that which extinguishes the light in the soul. Physical healing was the external sign of a remission of sins, where sin was understood as the error of moving away from the source of light and getting lost in the density of matter. When the sun set completely and the stars appeared over the desert, Yeshua and the Essenes remained in silent communion. They did not need many words, for the presence of the Master was the technique itself incarnate. He was the bread that came down from heaven, the light that enlightens every man who comes into the world. Fasting in him was fullness, and light in him was the way. The Codex ends this chapter with a promise that in distant times, when man was again plunged into disease, caused by forgetfulness and excess, these words would be rediscovered. Fasting would again be the teacher, and light would again be the doctor. Humanity would remember that healing is not something one buys, but something one becomes. And so, in the caves of Qumran, the secret was sealed in clay jars, awaiting the ears of those who were ready to hear. The healing technique of Jesus and the Essenes was not a complex ritual, but a return to original simplicity. It is the art of letting God be God in the body of man, removing what is left over so that what is essential shines. It is the alchemy of transparency. Where there is emptiness, the Spirit blows. Where there is light, the shadow flees. Where there is Christ, life triumphs over death. This is the testimony of the Codex, the heritage of the children of clarity, the map to the golden temple that resides in the silence of the heart, hungry for infinity. In the final passages of the manuscript, the rite of breaking the fast is described, which is as sacred as the fast itself. Men must not return to matter with greed, but with reverence. The first fruit, the first sip of water, must be taken as a sacrament, recognizing that the earth is also divine. The light accumulated in the period of vacuity must now be radiated to the world through acts of compassion. The healing received must become healing given. The Essene who was healed by fasting and light becomes himself a bearer of light for those who still walk in the shadows. Yeshua stood up and before leaving for the villages of Galilee, looked at the Dead Sea and uttered the final blessing over his brothers. He said that the Dead Sea would one day have life again, just as the sickest body can bloom again if touched by the Father's breath. He left, but the trail of his light remained in the sands, in the parchments, and in the souls of those who understood that health is the natural state of the being who lives in fasting of ego and in a banquet of light. And the stars, as silent witnesses, shone more brightly that night, as if the universe itself celebrated the revelation that man is, in his essence, a child of the sun, destined to shine forever in the kingdom that has no end. The secret of fasting was also the secret of time. By ceasing consumption, man leaves the horizontal timeline and enters the verticality of the eternal now. In the emptiness of the stomach, time stops, and regeneration occurs at the speed of divine thought. Light, in turn, is the transport to this dimension. Jesus showed that in healing a blind man, he only removed the scales that prevented the soul from perceiving that it was already immersed in an ocean of light. The fasting of the eyes, the act of closing the vision to the world of appearances, was the necessary step to open the vision of the third eye, the eye of light. Thus, the Codex of Dissipated Shadows remains as a guide for seekers of all ages. It reminds us that the body is the battlefield between light and shadow, and that victory belongs to the one who knows how to silence the body to hear the soul. Fasting and light are the two wings that allow the human bird to fly back to its original nest. There is no deeper secret than this. God is light, and in Him there is no darkness at all. Fasting is the act of removing everything that is not God in us, so that only the light remains, radiant, healing, and eternal. And these words are true, sealed by the breaths of the prophets, and by the presence of Him who is the beginning and the end, the Son of Righteousness, who rises with healing in His wings. And it happened that, after the Master had departed, the Essenes wrote these things so that the lineage of healers would not be lost. They understood that true medicine was not in the roots of the earth alone, but in the root of existence itself. Fasting was the purification by invisible fire, and light was the food of the angels that men now learn to share. Each cell, once heavy and slow, now pulsed in celestial rhythms. They saw disease as a deviation from the rhythm, and fasting as the pause that allows the conductor to restart the symphony. Light was the original score, written by the creators in the fabric of space. In the days that followed, many who were on the verge of death were taken to the caves. Following what Yeshua had taught, they were bathed in running waters and set to rest under the sun, without bread, but covered in prayer and silence. And the miracle was seen. The leprous skin became like that of a child. The clouded eyes regained the brilliance of the waters of Siloam, and the paralyzed limbs awoke as if coming out of a long sleep. The technique did not fail, for it was not based on the will of man, but on the surrender of man to the universal law. Fasting broke the pride of the flesh, and light restored the dignity of the spirit. The manuscript ends with a vision of the future, where the entire earth would become a community of light. But for this to happen, each man must first heal himself, becoming a master of his own temple. Fasting is the key to the door. Light is the way that leads to the throne. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear what the Spirit and the Master revealed to the Essenes. The secret of total health lies in the embrace of emptiness with clarity. In nothingness, we find everything. In light, we become one with the Father. And so be it, for ages of ages, until the last veil falls and there is no more need for sun or moon, for the glory of the Most High will be our eternal light. And on the shores of the Dead Sea, the wind still whispers these truths to those who know how to listen. The desert is not empty, it is full of presence. Fasting is not deprivation, it is space. Light is not outside, it is everywhere. The technique of Jesus and the Essenes is the call for the awakening of the light man, the one who discovered that his true nature is indestructible, luminous, and free from all pain. May the seeker find in these words the map for his own transfiguration, and may the body of clay become finally the crystal body where the Word dwells in all His fullness. The silence of the Codex is the silence of God. Between the lines lies the power to regenerate worlds. Fasting and light are not just methods of healing, but the liturgy of the soul returning home. In the end of all things, only love will remain, which is the light that never goes out, the fasting of all that is ephemeral for the possession of what is eternal. The healing has been revealed. The way is open. The Master waits in the light of dawn, and in the center of every man, in the most intimate sanctuary of the heart, Yeshua continues to speak to the ears of the Spirit. Behold, I make all things new. The novelty begins in the emptiness of fasting and is completed in the splendor of light. The man who practices this mystery becomes a bridge between heaven and earth, a beacon of health in a thirsty world. The Codex is complete. The revelation is delivered into the hands of the pure in heart. May the light of the world illuminate your steps, and may the fasting of the world strengthen your soul. Peace to men of good will. Amen and amen. The ancient elders, in keeping the parchment, knew that it would be read by eyes that would seek the truth in times of great darkness. They knew that the science of men would try to imitate miracles, but that true healing would always remain in the domain of the sacred. The body cannot be healed without the soul, and the soul cannot be healed without the light. Fasting is the act of humility of the soul before the majesty of life. Light is the response of majesty to humility. This divine dance is what sustains the galaxies and what makes the heart of a bird pulse. The technique of the Essenes was above all a practice of presence. In fasting, you are not waiting for time to pass. You are inhabiting time. In light, you are not looking at the sun. You are letting the sun look through you. Jesus did not bring a new religion, but a new life, a life that does not know decay because it feeds on the eternal source. Healing is the return to Eden, where man walked naked before his Creator without the heavy garments of sin and infirmity. Fasting is the nakedness of the soul. Light is the garment of glory. Together, they form the wedding attire for the meeting with the celestial groom. May the reader of this codex feel the heat of the Qumran sun on his face and the purity of the Jordan waters in his veins. The Master is here. Healing is here. Just empty yourself. Just shine. For you are the light of the world, and your light must shine before men, not for your glory, but for the glory of the Father who is in heaven. And so, the text falls silent, leaving only the vibration of truth in the air. The technique was revealed, the mystery was opened. The rest is practice, is life, is light. Drink from the cup of emptiness, eat from the bread of clarity, and you will be free. You will be healed. You will be one with life. The Codex ends its testimony with the seal of the Alpha and the Omega, the light that was in the beginning, that is now, and that will be forever. In fasting, the soul finds its wings. In light, it finds its sky. Deep peace to the heirs of this promise. The revelation is consummated. The dunes move, the kingdoms fall, but the word remains. And the word says, I am the light that enlightens the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Fasting is the act of following the Master into the desert to overcome the temptation of matter. Light is the victory won. Heal yourself, O man, and you will heal the universe. For you are the microcosm of the all, and in you resides the power to transform clay into a star. Fasting cleans the mirror. Light reflects the face of God. And so it was written, and so it was kept, so that the truth would never die. The Codex of Dissipated Shadows lives now in the heart of whoever reads it with faith and practices it with love. May the healing of Jesus and the Essenes flow like a river of eternal life in every being, restoring, elevating, and divinizing all creation. From the Dead Sea to the infinite, the light reigns. Fasting freed the way. Life triumphed. The mystery is revealed by the hands of the scribes of light in the year of grace under the gaze of the Most High. This is the end of the account, but only the beginning of the journey for the one who decides to walk in the path of purification and splendor. the Master of Righteousness, and the Son of Man gave the testimony. It is up to us to make it flesh and light. May silence keep these words, and may light manifest them in works of health and peace. Amen.